giant piece of each other. Fight a fire dragon with an electricity man. Seems really
Sasuke, and therefore the beauty of the girl did not touch his heart. Jiyu hastened to introduce her tutor to her father, because he is such a tall and handsome and stylish swag boy in general. She noted that since he is already better, he and she could take up studies. The girl was not only beautiful, but also responsible. The mother of the family introduced the man in the stroller as her husband. Young Woo was still emotionless. The woman said that 3 years ago, her husband had a meeting with a truck stand, but he did not excise from it. And now her husband does not walk and does not talk, but calm as if he poured 2 liters of green tea with chamomile into himself. And Nigad, who turned out to be the husband of a woman and the father of Jiyu. Oh fate, how hilarious you can be. At that moment, the mod Sasuke Uchiha Revenge 2.0 was being loaded in the Changwoo program. And while the unsuspecting woman was talking about her husband, the guy couldn't help but say the name of his former professor. She didn't understand what emotions Young Woo would experience, and went on to say that her husband was a professor at the university, so the guy could well know him. Oh, if he knew how well he knows Ha Iko. But Young Woo wasn't listening to her, slowly approaching the man in the wheelchair. In a lilac voice, he noted that, of course, he knew the professor, because he was famous at the university. After asking Iko if he remembered him, Young Woo got as close to him as possible. Like a bitch, he stood over his victim, knowing that he felt nothing but fear from him. And indeed, the man instantly fell into a panic and screamed loudly, which frightened his daughter and wife. While the 2 girls ran for help, Young Woo was left alone with his object of revenge. A crushing silence hung between them, but if one was terrified, the other experienced a sweet feeling of imminent reprisal. Young Woo grinned, thinking about the vicissitudes of fate, while Iko trembled like a frightened hare. The guy noted that 10 years had passed since their last meeting, but now they met again, and what circumstances led to it. Not at all gently, he put his palm on the cheek of the former professor. Young Woo noticed that he was covered with cold sweat. Grinning, Jong-woo already knew that he would take revenge. His inner Sasuke kept chanting the word revenge. But before he could finish his villainous monologue, Jiyu burst into the room, saying that the ambulance had arrived. Immediately pulling on a mask of friendliness, the guy offered his help. And then he showed his true nature, whispering to Iko that now it was his turn to suffer. After transferring the man to a gurney, the doctors tried to normalize his blood pressure and pulse, but he was in too much of a state. The wife and daughter did not understand what had come over their always calm father and husband. And while the professor was in an agony of fear, Young-woo thought that it was so ironic to meet him now, and that he should thank Iko. The plan of revenge had already matured in his head, and therefore he calmed the professor as friendly as possible. After all, now he would take care of Ha Iko's family. Young-woo walked into a nightclub full of young people. He walked forward like Sigma, attracting the attention of all the girls in the neighborhood. 2 girls, his longtime skating partners in the League of Legends, greeted him. But today, Song-woo had another game with another girl, so he walked past them. At this time, a young, curvaceous girl in a red cocktail dress appeared in the center of the dance floor. 2 guys wanted to impress a girl with their D&D skills. The stylish swag boy in a black coat walked past them. Without saying a word, he put his arm around the girl's waist, and she immediately realized who it was. Young-woo said just one word, and the girl followed him. The guys who looked at it were outraged, because they thought that their cubes in the board would impress the girl. Angry, one of them grabbed the guy by the collar of his coat and pulled him back. But Itachi's reincarnation in the form of Young-woo looked at this noob with a look of complete silent disgust. Young-woo used his alpha aura, and the guys instantly quieted down. 2 noobs realized that they were not facing a D&D player, but the dungeon master himself. While the guy was smoking, the girl turned to him that he was coming again without warning. A young girl in a stylish red dress coquettishly straightened her lilac hair. Young-woo came to her for information, but the girl wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with him first. Ignoring the girl's request, the guy wanted to continue a purely business conversation, but the pink-painted fingers covered his mouth. The girl complained that Young-woo was leading the conversation in a bad direction. Running her finger along his chin, she asked if the guy knew exactly what he needed. Jong-woo understood her hint and gently pushed the girl away from him, and he pulled out of his coat pocket a bundle of fresh money that had just been brought from the bank. But no sooner had he handed the banknotes into the girl's hands than they disappeared. To be immediately in her hands, the girl clearly knew a different trick from Mr. Copperfield. Like a machine for rereading money, she immediately divided the amount in half. And I dropped part of it into the club hall because it's a money rain hallelujah. Distraught people began to collect and pick up flying banknotes. Like a manager from the Hunger Games, the girl is looking at the rabble of the crowd. Itachi, that is, Chong-woo, was also purple on others, but he responded to the girl's appeal. After a nice money dump, she wanted to play instruments. Does Young-woo want to accompany her? As it turned out, yes. First, they performed an exercise for the vocal cords. Because it's very human.
3, 2, 1, go!
Me and myself is the most that I can do. My normal self. What I want to show.
Human when singing a decent voice. The girl noted that the guy still has an amazing ear for music. Young-woo also noticed that he already knows this. There is no need to remind him how awesome he is. Having put the girl on the table, the guy began to prepare the tools. To begin with, he checked the girl's drums, and her drummers were more than elastic and well stretched. When practicing music, nothing should hinder the movements of musicians, so Young-woo took off his fashionable coat. But the girl slowed him down. The atmosphere is important at the concert, so too much hate will destroy the whole atmosphere. Young-woo knew about the importance of atmosphere at concerts, but he also knew that he was musically gifted enough to lead the concert. As a result, he inserted his guitar cable into its amplifier unit, and while he was playing fast rock, they were having a conversation about what Jong-woo needed. Her, the girl, was asking about whom to dig up information. At this time, the guy started playing fast chords, bringing the music to completion. The girl agreed to do everything possible for him if he continued to make music with her, because their concerts are the best for her. At the same time, in the local hospital, the nurse told Miss Ha that her husband's condition was stable. The woman was walking to her husband's ward when she stopped at another ward with an open door. There she saw Normie's happy family, where the children and wife were next to their sick father. Looking at them, she couldn't help but remember her situation. She went to her husband's room. With a sad face, the woman bent over Haiko. While the man was unconscious after the psychic attack of Oh Young-woo, his wife gently stroked his old cheek. Looking at him, she thought of only one thing. All this time she held on as best she could. Taking his hand in hers, the woman kissed him gently, and that's when her patience ran out. All this time she wanted someone to play ninja with her. She was lonely, because after the incident with her husband, she played with her shuriken herself. The woman did not have time to enjoy the fantasies of ninja jumping on trees, as a knock sounded at the door. Instantly jumping up, she began to approach the door, asking who was behind her. The newcomer turned out to be Jung-woo with the role of a vengeful ninja, Sasuke-kun. Miss Ha hurried to open the door to her daughter's tutor, and so the 2-meter Hulk met with an almost black widow. Let's go back a little in time, when after the concert, Young-woo and the lilac-haired girl were discussing business. It turned out that the guy was looking for information about the professor's wife, and the girl found her. The woman's name was Park Hae-sun, 34 years old, 10 of them married to Ha-iko. The girl added that for a man it is a remarriage, and from the first he has a daughter, the same 20-year-old Ha Ji-yu. Walking down the corridor of the hospital, Jung-woo went over the information he had received in his head. And he knew that for his revenge, he had to become for Hae-sun not just her daughter's tutor. After all, only then will he be able to advance in his revenge. So we came back to the present. Young-woo said he was worried about Miss Park, so he came to keep her company. Closing the door, he walked closer to the patient's bed. Hae-sun admitted that she was afraid of knocking, as she did not know who could come to her husband's room so late. Young-woo stood on Haiko in silence. What thoughts were in his head is not clear, but he covered his palm in a gesture of sympathy. He asked about Hae-sun about her husband's well-being. She said that his condition is stable, but he needs rest until full recovery. Young-woo was calculating his next steps. He couldn't stop at one stage. By showing sympathy for Miss Park's situation, he earned himself sympathy points. The woman, not feeling threatened, sat down next to him. It was then that Young-woo activated his eloquence and started a story about his mother. About the fact that his mother was also ill for a long time, and he suffered seeing her pain. The charisma, pumped up to 100, worked out her points by working to the full. Hae-sun listened to the guy's tearful monologue without saying a word. The actor without an Oscar shed tears, and along with him, Miss Park was already really crying because her intuition test turned out to be a one-off. Embarrassed by tears, she wanted to go to the ladies' room, but as if a predator sensed the moment of weakness of the victim, Young-woo stopped her. Only the woman was scared and wanted to pull her hand away. So she sank into the seat next to him again. Playing the role of a supportive character, he said he hopes her loneliness doesn't gnaw at her. And by adding a sparkle to his dead fish eyes, he promised to help if necessary. And suddenly his face was pressed against the incredibly soft antique dress of a woman. The guy himself did not expect this, but Miss Park sincerely thanked him for the words of support. That's what makes the competently pumped characteristics. Unfortunately, Hae-sun just had terrible skills, and for a long time, as Young-woo raised his head. And that's when their eyes met. Her sincerely bright and dead fish would appear on a cold October day. Young-woo and Park Hae-sun looked at each other, completely forgetting that the professor was nearby. The guy decided to express deeper sympathy to Hae-sun by patting her on her big crusade. But the woman was not ready for this kind of support, and gently pushed the guy away. Experiencing an awkward silence, they distanced themselves from each other. Young-woo stood up to leave, this time for sure. Finally, he threw her the bait that if she needed help, he was there. She only had to call him. He knew that the fish would bite the worm itself. Hae-sun didn't know how to describe her feelings, but her video card was starting to accelerate. After a while, Miss Park was also present at a dinner party, where the wives of the upper class gathered. Among them was Guyan, a woman with small apples but with wide lower melons. The conversation of the women turned to the fact that everyone has their own personal ballerina trainer. But Hae-sun said she doesn't have a coach. She only plays with her husband. The rest of the women thought it was boring to play with the same partner. Didn't she really want to turn out with younger players? Doesn't she want to play in a team with Yoru and not just with Team Brand? Or even try with Gecko? Then one of the women remembered that Hasan had a new tutor. And while others were busy dreaming how they would play with the young guys, Hae-sun herself was going through hard thoughts about playing a duet with a young man. But suddenly Jong-woo's hands fell on the woman's shoulders. What an unexpected meeting for her. She was surprised, and not to say that it was pleasant. Similar to the age expressed Jennifer and Triss, women have already managed to evaluate the appearance of Young-woo. Playing the role of a gentleman, he asked to make a campaign for mature ladies. Of course, they did not refuse. The ladies surrounding him believed his appearance and well-developed charisma could not help but attract their attention. The women kept asking him about various things, but he just waved them off with a sweet smile. However, Gon is the only beauty here. Immediately asked if Jong-woo has a lover. Everyone at the table held their breaths, waiting for his answer. Lightly grinning, he answered in the negative. He wasn't done with that. It was time to pull the bait. Turning directly to Park Hae-sun, he admitted that there is someone who occupies all the soaps. This is the face of an interested person, Itachi, that shook life. But Hae-sun believed his words and was shocked by his confession. And while Hae-sun was falling for the bait of Young-woo, the rest of the women felt the approaching show. The woman turned to the guy in disbelief. While the parrot of Itachi with dead eyes was thinking to himself what an awesome, handsome guy he was, that he had come up with a plan as reliable as a Swiss watch. Unfortunately, the women surrounding Hae-sun also believed in Young-woo's words, and were already trying to push them out on a date. But she decided to leave until she does something stupid by playing D&D with the guy. And her strategist, who was cooler than Yagami Light and L, thought that everything was going according to his Kinkaku, and he also decided to leave by getting up from the table. While the women who looked like Jennifer and Triss were thinking how lucky Hae-sun was, Gon saw the falseness in Young-woo's words. The two were walking down the long corridor to the exit of the building. The guy knew that the woman had almost fallen into his net. He just needed to push her a little. Playing the role of a gentleman, he offered to take her home. But Hae-sun, in the end, angry at the behavior of the young man, refused to accompany him. And she added that if others enjoyed playing Minecraft with others, then it's good for her to be alone on a private server. Young-woo grabbed her by the shoulders, asking if she didn't understand his actions. But Hae-sun was no longer sure of her actions and thoughts. What to say about the actions of the guy? Taking off his hands, she was about to leave. Young-woo realized that he could not let her go now. He still tried to explain his feelings to her, but she continued to resist. Young-woo could only block Hae-sun's way and tell her everything. Using the persuasion skill, he said that he was interested in her from the first meeting. But suddenly a strong slap fell on Young-woo's cheek. The red lacquered female hand that hit him did not belong to Park Hwa-seong, but there was a guy who stood in front of Hae-sun, protecting her from the guy. Young-woo asked about the cause of the blow, but Gon ignored him and told Hae-sun to leave first. As she left, she kept turning back, as the atmosphere began to heat up. Young-woo and Sigma wanted to pass by the woman, but even that was not a simple Omega that stopped him. Starting to get angry, he turned to Nan. However, as it turned out, she knew him. A little later, behind the closed doors of the restaurant, left alone with Young-woo, the woman was about to lay out her cards. He intimidated Young-woo and knew his methods of seducing women to play Roblox with him. After all, he is still the same as before. The same as 2 years ago. For him, it is a standard to get a tutor for a child and periodically play games with a married woman, and play in a dream, then Minecraft, then Roblox, then